Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going to be taking a deep dive into the biggest news stories of January 29th, 2025, focusing specifically on climate energy and the environment.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover today. Buckle up.
All right, so first up, we have a report on billion-dollar weather disasters in 2024, and the numbers are pretty alarming.
Yeah, $58 billion weather and climate disasters last year. Second highest on record, just behind 2023.
Wow. And the total cost?
$402 billion.
$402 billion.
Wow. Yeah, that's a 20% increase over the 10-year average. It really highlights the growing economic impact of climate change.
Right. Yeah. So it looks like Hurricane Helene was the most destructive event, costing $79 billion and tragically claiming 243 lives.
Yeah, researchers estimate that climate change actually amplified Helene's wind speeds by 11%, adding to its devastating impact.
11%. Wow. We also saw a record number of deadly heat waves last year. 3 heat waves resulted in over 1,000 deaths each.
Yeah, heat waves are a silent killer. We need effective mitigation strategies, especially for vulnerable populations.
Definitely. Now let's turn to the Trump administration's recent environmental actions.
Okay, so President Trump officially withdrew the United States from the Paris Agreement for a second time.
Second time.
Yeah.
This decision has drawn a lot of criticism from those who believe it undermines global climate action.
Right. And some supporters of the decision argue that the Paris Agreement is flawed and the U.S. should prioritize energy independence.
Yeah, so the administration also rolled back a bunch of environmental regulations, focusing on promoting fossil fuel production.
Yeah. They've opened Arctic areas for drilling and bypassed the Endangered Species Act for some energy projects.
Environmental groups argue these actions prioritize short-term economic gains over long-term environmental protection.
Right, and several states, including California, are challenging these federal actions in court.
Okay. Adding to the controversy, the Trump administration suspended National Institutes of Health grants and research activities.
Right, scientists are concerned about disruptions to critical medical and climate change research.
Yeah. They worry these delays could hinder progress in vital areas and impact the U.S.'s position as a leader in scientific innovation.
Right. Speaking of innovation, there's an interesting dynamic between the tech industry and the Trump administration.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Silicon Valley executives who once opposed Trump's climate policies have been notably silent since his second inauguration.
Huh. Okay, interesting. So the tech industry's growing energy demands, especially for AI development, may be influencing their stance.
Right. Some believe they're aligning with the administration's pro-fossil fuel stance to secure reliable energy for their operations.
Which raises questions about their commitment to sustainability and whether their actions align with their stated goals.
Right.
Moving on to transportation, at least 39 states have imposed higher registration fees on electric vehicle owners.
Yeah, these fees are intended to offset declining gas tax revenues used for road maintenance.
Environmentalists argue these fees could discourage electric vehicle adoption and hinder emission reduction efforts.
Right, and they propose alternative solutions like per-mile fees, which they believe would be more equitable.
Makes sense.
Mm.
In the wake of the Los Angeles wildfires, parents are worried about toxic ash as schools reopen.
Right, they're concerned about the cleanup efforts and the safety of these environments for their children.
Makes sense. Experts warn wildfire ash can contain harmful substances like lead and asbestos, posing health risks especially to young children.
Right. This situation underscores the need for long-term monitoring and mitigation after wildfires.
Definitely. A legal battle is brewing in Vermont over the state's Climate Superfund Act.
So this groundbreaking law holds fossil fuel companies financially responsible for climate-related damages.
Interesting. And industry groups argue the law is unconstitutional and conflicts with federal regulations.
Right. This case could have national implications, potentially setting a precedent for state-level climate accountability laws.
Okay. Botanic gardens worldwide are facing a space crisis, limiting their ability to conserve endangered plants.
Yeah, most gardens are at capacity, with limited space for conservation efforts.
And legal restrictions on collecting plants and exchanging seeds are further complicating conservation.
Right. This highlights the urgent need for solutions to safeguard plant biodiversity, a role botanic gardens play a key part in.
Kentucky is taking a unique approach to address housing shortages and flood risks.
Okay, what's that?
So they're relocating flood survivors to housing developments built on reclaimed coal mining sites.
Interesting. So this innovative approach faces challenges, including high construction costs and delayed federal funding.
Right. It raises questions about the long-term feasibility of such projects and the need for investment in climate-resilient infrastructure.
Makes sense.
Southern California Edison wants to pass on the costs of wildfire damages to its customers.
Okay. So the company is seeking to recover billions of dollars in claims through rate hikes.
Wow. Consumer advocates argue it's unfair to burden customers with costs potentially stemming from the company's negligence.
Right, and this raises questions about corporate accountability for climate-related disasters and the need for strong regulatory
Yeah.
frameworks.
In Africa, a $35 billion project aims to provide electricity to 300 million people.
Wow, that's big. So this initiative, backed by the World Bank and African Development Bank, will develop solar mini-grids and upgrade existing grids.
This is a crucial step towards addressing energy poverty and promoting sustainable development in Africa.
Right. However, regulatory challenges and ensuring equitable access to energy resources remain hurdles.
Definitely. There's debate in the scientific community about whether a key Atlantic Ocean current is weakening.
Yes, some studies suggest the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC, is slowing down.
And a recent study using improved models found no evidence of long-term weakening, raising questions about previous findings.
Right. While the debate continues, scientists agree AMOC weakening remains a potential risk this century.
And if it occurs, the consequences could be significant, disrupting agriculture, fisheries, and rainfall patterns globally.
Definitely.
A new study warns that hotter summers in Europe could lead to a substantial increase in heat-related deaths.
Right. Without emission cuts and adaptation efforts, Europe could see up to 2.3 million heat-related deaths annually by 2100.
Wow, that's a lot. Europe's aging population and lack of widespread air conditioning heighten the risks posed by extreme heat.
For sure. This underscores the urgency of addressing climate change's health impacts and prioritizing heat mitigation strategies.
The Trump administration has rolled back fuel economy standards implemented during the Biden era.
Okay. This decision, aimed at loosening vehicle emission regulations, has drawn criticism from environmental groups.
Right. They argue it undermines efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and will worsen air pollution.
Yeah, and the rollback faces legal challenges from states committed to stricter environmental standards.
Okay. The Trump administration revoked an executive order empowering the Council on Environmental Quality to enforce environmental regulations.
So this creates uncertainty about environmental reviews for infrastructure projects.
And critics argue it weakens environmental protections and could lead to faster approval of potentially harmful projects.
Right. They also express concerns about reduced public participation in the environmental review process.
New York City's congestion pricing program aims to reduce traffic in Manhattan, but faces criticism for potential air quality impacts.
So while the program intends to improve regional air quality and fund transit, some argue it could shift traffic and pollution to overburdened areas.
Right. Residents in neighborhoods like the South Bronx with high asthma rates and heavy truck traffic are particularly concerned.
Yeah.
They believe mitigation efforts like air purifiers and asthma treatment centers are insufficient to address potential health impacts.
Makes sense. This situation highlights the importance of considering environmental justice implications when implementing policies to reduce pollution.
For sure. A class action lawsuit accuses Marathon Petroleum of downplaying the health and environmental consequences of a refinery fire in Louisiana.
Right. The lawsuit alleges the company misled residents about the fire's impact and failed to adequately warn them about potential health risks.
And investigations found residents were exposed to hazardous chemicals above safety thresholds, despite the company's claims of no off-site impacts.
Right. This raises concerns about corporations prioritizing profits over public safety and the need for stronger accountability mechanisms.
Definitely. The Trump administration eliminated federal equity plans for disaster aid distribution.
And advocates argue this exacerbates existing disparities, favoring wealthier white communities over low-income and minority groups.
Right. They point to past disaster recovery programs that left marginalized communities struggling, while wealthier areas received more support.
Yeah. This decision underscores the need to prioritize equity in disaster response and ensure all communities have access to resources and support.
Rising flood insurance premiums in Louisiana are pricing out many residents.
Right. New federal risk assessments are driving up costs, forcing homeowners to make difficult choices, including foregoing coverage.
This highlights the growing affordability crisis in flood insurance and the need for solutions that ensure access to affordable coverage.
Right. And it also underscores the importance of investing in mitigation measures to reduce flood risks and insurance costs.
The Trump administration issued an executive order to bypass California's water policies, prioritizing agricultural water deliveries over environmental concerns.
Okay. Conservation groups criticize this move, arguing it prioritizes short-term economic interests over the long-term health of ecosystems.
Yeah, this situation highlights the tension between water demands and the need for balanced water management policies.
Makes sense.
Virginia lawmakers propose legislation addressing climate change impacts like rising sea levels and extreme weather.
So these bills promote resilience, protect wetlands, and ensure equitable resource distribution.
Okay, and they also include measures to hold fossil fuel companies accountable and fund adaptation projects. This legislative effort reflects the growing need for proactive climate action and solutions that protect communities and the environment.
For sure.
Climate activists are rethinking their tactics in light of President Trump's return to office and his focus on fossil fuel expansion.
Right, so they're considering more disruptive actions, such as civil disobedience, alongside traditional organizing methods.
And this shift reflects a growing sense of urgency and frustration with the pace of progress on climate action.
Yeah, and activists are also connecting climate change to economic concerns, like the financial fallout from disasters.
Right. This approach aims to broaden the appeal of climate action and build coalitions beyond traditional environmentalists.
Right.
A new strain of bird flu was detected on a duck farm in California,
Oh no. Authorities euthanized all ducks on the farm to prevent the virus's spread.
which raises concerns about potential animal disease outbreaks, especially as climate change and habitat loss increase transmission risks.
Yeah, it highlights the importance of biosecurity measures and vigilance to prevent the spread of diseases impacting animal and human health.
A lithium battery site fire in Monterey County led to an unexpected discovery.
What happened?
Scientists found high levels of heavy metals in a nearby estuary, raising concerns about the environmental impact of battery storage facilities.
Yeah, this incident highlights the need for rigorous safety standards and environmental monitoring for these increasingly important facilities.
Right. It underscores the need to consider the full life cycle of technologies,
Yeah.
including potential environmental risks, in the transition to cleaner energy.
Makes sense.
Wow, I've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into today's top news stories.
Yeah, we sure have a lot more to come, though, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. Let's dig a little deeper into some of the day's most compelling news.
Okay, so earlier we touched on Southern California Edison's request to pass over $7 billion in wildfire damage costs to customers.
Right, and, as climate change intensifies wildfires, this case could set a precedent for who bears the financial burden of these events.
Right, so should utility companies be held responsible for damages caused by their equipment, especially with, a changing climate?
Well, it's a complex issue. Holding companies accountable could incentivize investment in wildfire prevention and safety.
Right.
But passing costs to consumers could lead to unaffordable energy bills, especially for those already struggling.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So the outcome of this case will be closely watched for sure.
Definitely. Okay, we also discussed concerns about toxic ash in Los Angeles and, the impacts of disasters linger long after the immediate event.
For sure. It's not just the physical environment that's affected either. We're seeing a rise in mental health challenges among residents too.
Right. The trauma of such a disaster can be overwhelming, leading to anxiety, grief, and difficulty coping.
Exactly. And the constant threat of future fires fueled by climate change adds another layer of stress.
Yeah, definitely. So we must acknowledge and address the mental health impacts of climate-related disasters, providing resources and support.
Definitely. This aspect of disaster response is often overlooked. We need to prioritize mental health alongside physical well-being.
For sure. So the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has moved the doomsday clock closer to midnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Citing threats of climate change, nuclear war, and the misuse of artificial intelligence.
Right. The clock, now at 89 seconds to midnight, symbolizes our planet's fragility and the need for global cooperation.
Right. It's a call to action, to prioritize peace, sustainability, and responsible innovation.
For sure. So Kentucky's relocation of flood survivors to former strip mines, this is a really interesting example of adaptive reuse.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Transforming these landscapes into safe and sustainable communities. It's a challenging but promising endeavor.
Definitely. It requires careful planning, remediation, and a commitment to resilient infrastructure.
Right.
But the potential benefits are significant, providing housing while restoring degraded land. This project shows how we can turn environmental challenges into opportunities.
For sure. So, floating solar panels, they're often touted as a climate solution, but it turns out they may have a downside.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A study found that floating solar can increase greenhouse gas emissions on small ponds.
Wow, so it highlights the need to consider the environmental trade-offs of renewable energy technologies.
Right. There are no silver bullet solutions.
Right.
Even green technologies can have unintended consequences.
Yeah, for sure. So thorough environmental assessments are crucial before deploying new technologies.
Definitely.
Okay, a new study reveals a growing desire for walkable, mixed-use neighborhoods in the U.S.
Oh, interesting. Despite urban sprawl, people want walkable neighborhoods that offer a higher quality of life.
So this shift has implications for transportation planning, housing development, and urban design.
Absolutely. Creating compact, sustainable, and vibrant urban environments can reduce car reliance and promote public transit. It's an opportunity to reduce emissions, improve air quality, and create more equitable access to amenities.
Okay, so several members of two EPA science advisory committees were dismissed.
Right. Critics see this as an attempt to silence dissent and stack committees with those aligned with the Trump administration's agenda.
And they argue it undermines science's role in policy and risks public health and environmental protection.
Right.
Yeah. This situation highlights the importance of scientific independence and transparency in environmental decision-making.
Definitely. You know, it's interesting. Silicon Valley executives, they were once so vocal against Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement.
Right.
And now they're largely silent.
It coincides with their growing energy demands for data centers,
Right.
especially for AI.
Right. And some suggest they're aligning with the administration's pro-fossil fuel policies to secure their energy needs.
So this raises concerns about the sincerity of corporate climate pledges and the influence of economic interests.
Yeah, definitely.
States are grappling with shrinking gas tax revenues as more people adopt electric vehicles.
Right. To compensate, many states are imposing higher registration fees on electric vehicle owners.
Right. This is meant to ensure all drivers contribute to road maintenance. But some argue it unfairly penalizes those choosing cleaner transportation.
Yeah. And environmentalists believe these fees could hinder EV adoption and propose alternative solutions like per-mile fees.
Yeah, definitely. The Trump administration weakened equity provisions in disaster assistance programs.
And advocates argue this will worsen inequalities, making it harder for low-income and minority communities to access aid after disasters.
This decision emphasizes the need for equitable disaster response efforts that address the vulnerabilities of marginalized communities.
For sure. Fossil fuel industry groups are suing Vermont over its Climate Superfund Act.
Okay, so this law holds companies financially responsible for climate-related damages, and the lawsuit challenges its constitutionality.
Right. This legal battle could significantly impact state-level climate accountability laws.
Okay. Botanic gardens worldwide are struggling to conserve endangered plants due to space and resource constraints.
Right. And rising extinction rates and restrictions on seed collection make their conservation mission even more difficult.
This highlights the urgent need for greater investment in plant conservation.
Definitely. So, a report found that only a small portion of climate adaptation funding goes towards healthcare, childcare, and long-term care facilities.
This lack of investment is concerning, as these facilities are essential for community well-being.
Yeah.
Increased public investment is crucial for building resilience and protecting vulnerable populations.
For sure. Off the coast of Australia, a massive marine heat wave is causing widespread fish kills and threatening coral reefs.
Wow. This event showcases the vulnerability of marine ecosystems to climate change.
Yeah, for sure. And it also reminds us of the connection between oceans and the atmosphere as warming waters contribute to extreme weather.
Right, okay. So a study in the Andes Mountains revealed a surprising way nature adapts to changing conditions.
Oh, really? What's that?
Relatives of llamas are venturing higher, depositing nutrient-rich dung that helps plants thrive despite glacier loss.
Wow, that's really cool. So this highlights the importance of biodiversity and the interconnectedness of species in ecosystem resilience, for sure.
So we've delved deeper into today's top news stories, examining their complexities and implications.
Yeah, we have. We still have a little more to go, though.
A little more to unpack here. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the news. We've covered a lot of ground today, from billion-dollar disasters to policy battles and scientific discoveries.
Yeah, a real whirlwind tour of current events.
Exactly. But amidst the whirlwind, there are some key themes that have really emerged.
Yeah, for sure. The undeniable impact of climate change is front and center.
Right.
Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and intense.
Definitely. Hurricanes, wildfires, heat waves, floods. We're seeing the consequences of warming planet in real time.
Yeah, and these events have profound economic, social, and public health implications. The costs are staggering, and they will only rise if we don't act.
Right. We've also seen the complex interplay of politics, policy, and science. The Trump administration's actions, particularly regarding the Paris Agreement and environmental regulations, have really sparked intense debate.
Yeah, for sure. It highlights the challenges of navigating these issues.
Yeah,
Different stakeholders have varying perspectives on the best way forward.
definitely. But amidst the challenges, we've also seen stories of adaptation and resilience. Communities are finding innovative solutions,
Yeah.
from relocating flood survivors to repurposing former coal mines.
These initiatives demonstrate human ingenuity and collaboration in the face of adversity. We have the capacity to create positive change.
Right. But adaptation alone is not enough. We need to address the root causes of climate change by reducing emissions and transitioning to cleaner energy.
Yeah, for sure.
This requires bold leadership, political will, and a collective commitment to building a more sustainable future.
Definitely.
Throughout our deep dive today, we've encountered alarming trends and inspiring stories. It's a reminder that the future is not predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today.
For sure.
We hope this deep dive has provided you with a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities we face. Climate change, energy transitions, and sustainability are interconnected issues that affect us all.
Definitely. As you go about your day, consider how you can use this knowledge to make informed decisions, advocate for change, and contribute to a more just and sustainable world.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Remember, staying informed and engaged is crucial. The future depends on the actions we take today.